the second part of my sharing session today is actually to share my experience of managing journal. If you see the title here, Beyond Submission. So I hope it gives you some idea what happened actually when we submit a paper to a journal. Okay, so I'm sharing my experience of managing the journal here. I'm currently having the role as the editor-in-chief for Journal of ICT. So let me introduce you about JICT first. So my presentation today related to the second topic will cover the following points. First, I will give a brief introduction about Journal of Information and Communication Technology. Second one, I will provide some overview of the journal management landscape. What are the key responsibilities of a journal editor-in-chief, and then the challenges in journal management, and then I will follow or discuss of my personal insights or personal opinion related to the role as the journal editor-in-chief, and also I would share with you some tools that I use to perform my role as the editor-in-chief, and also some conclusion. So, beyond submission, I would like you maybe to think of what is actually happened after you click the button submit in the journal submission system. What is that? What are the tasks that the journal editors would do? We might think that the process is actually simple, but it is not that as simple as you think. Okay. And some authors, they anticipate that response toward the submission process would take like 2 to 3 days, which is also not the case for Journal of ICT when I'm managing it. So you will see what are the challenges later. Okay, so I will introduce to you about JICT. JICT, Journal of Information and Communication Technology, it was established in 2002. So now this is our 22nd years of our establishments. The journal was indexed by Scopus in 2011, and later it was indexed by Clarivet, which is ESCI, Imagine Source of I've forgotten the ESCI, in 2017. We have 4 issues in a year, which we publish in January, April, July, and October. Our recent issue was just published last month. So on your right side, you will see this is actually the old Journal of ICT book. I call it a book because it's in the printed in the printed version. We started with this form of publication or book in 2002 until we stopped printing the printed and only print the printed based on subscription or requests. Okay. And we actually have a new journal cover, which I invite you to visit our journal website. So JICT here, let me introduce you with the founder for the journal. Of course, she is Professor Emeritus Dr. Kuruhana Kumahamud. She started establishing the journal team in 2002 and being the editor-in-chief until 2021. So I took over her role as the journal editor-in-chief in 2022 until present. Okay. So let's look at my journey with JICT. I joined JICT not during the year of its establishment. A year later, I joined as the editorial team. During that time, I still remember that preparing the journal is based on sending an email, or some of the reviewers ask for printed material so that we send them through post or courier. During that time, we only have post, okay, during 2003. And in 2005, we have like a small team. In 2003, around 10 people, 10 staff from school. During that time, it was School of Information Technology, if I'm not mistaken, not School of Computing, but we use that the term school as well. So we have like 10 members in the editorial team. Every members have their own role. For example, being we have stages during that time. Those who acquire papers or manuscript, those who are processing the manuscript, those who are doing the layout and prepare for the printing. During that time, the publication of the journal was handled by the school entirely. Only I think around 2009, the journal was taken over by the UUM Press, where they collectively, they manage the journal, which has been established before 2005, and assist supporting the team to apply for scopus and so on. So now we are now being managed by UUM Press. Although the editorial teams come from the School of Computing, but the entire management fund and so on comes from UUM Press. So during that time on 2005, my role was to manage all the review process, identifying reviewers, communicating with reviewers, and get that reviewers feedback to have the review, some through emails and some through mail. And the reviewers during that time is only limited to the local expertise in Malaysia. Okay. And in 2008, I went on leave. And then when I get back from that, on my leave study in 2012, I joined the team again. And in 2022, I was appointed as the chief editor-in-chief because Professor Emeritus Dr. Qurana Muhammad was retired from her service. And in 2024, by January today, I actually conducted desk checking for 1,106 manuscripts in 2002 and 823 manuscripts in 2003. If you realize, it has a slight decrease of number of submission, because in 2003 we started impose article processing charge because of the UUM Press policy. All the scopus journal should impose the article processing charge, because we have like limited resource and funding from internal or from the university, so the journal have to sustain by themselves by imposing some article processing charge. So within these 2 years, in average, in this every month, in every week, I usually conducted a desk checking for an average of 30 papers every week. So in a month is almost like 80 papers or 90 paper, 100 papers for a month in average. There's a month that is less, that could week lesser than the other weeks, that in average is almost like that number. Every week is also almost between 30. Okay, so let's look at the overview of the journal management landscape. If you are young lecturers, you might not know what happened in between the year 2000 and 2010, how managing the process of managing the journal happened. Okay, so I give this some evolution of academic publishing. So this is actually happened in JICT when I started in 2003, joined the team. So we have the traditional and modern journal management system. Of course, the modern management system nowadays help a lot. Help the during that time, if I still remember, authors submit their papers using letters and email. They post to us, so we receive like tons of envelopes containing manuscript, which I think it's quite challenging to look one by one, and then making photocopies, and then making the papers blind. As we promise, we are conducting blind review. Sometimes authors having their manuscript complete their affiliation. So what we did last time was we kind of having a paper, we we paste a blank paper on their name and their affiliation, and make a photocopy and send it to reviewer via mail as well, by postal. So manuscript was submitted via postal mail or in person. Maybe they also submitted, for example, they met the editor-in-chief through conferences or meetings or whatever, they printed and give it to the chief editor. And then peer review was conducted through physical mail or in-person meetings. Yeah, sometimes we also have like sort of meetings with the reviewers somewhere in their convenient location and ask them to review the paper at that point and return the review report. And the printed journals distributed via subscription or purchase. Yeah, during that time we only have a printed version. We don't have that the electronic version. Those who are interested to subscribe, mostly local libraries, local university libraries subscribe to our journals. But nowadays it is always it's an open access. There's no more for subscription. Limited access to research due to print format and distribution channel. So if the university subscribe to our journal, then you have access on their shelf, their library shelf. So editorial decision made by a small group of experts. That's very true. During that time, I think we only have 3 to 4 professors and associate professors who decided on whether to accept or to reject papers after the review process. So it's going to be a very lengthy publication timelines to do the manual process. It sometimes take 1.5 years to settle. Okay, but this, and also again the submission rate is very low during that time. It's only limited to our own network and those who know about us. However, the modern practice today, it's a lot easier than as compared to the traditional practice when I started joined the team in 2003. So today, manuscript submitted online through electronic submission. There's a lot of different examples of submission system. For example, Scholar One, editorial manager, and it can be easily to do the peer review using the system, and the journal is available in the PDF or HTML format and usually published in as open access. So it have a greater accessibility to research due online distribution and open access initiative. And editorial boards often comprise of a diverse range of experts from around the globe. That is true. And streamlined publication timelines enabled by automation and digital workflow. So everything is there in the system. We just follow each of the process after completing one process and then followed by the next process. So based on this, we look also the evolution here in academic publishing, where what are the roles of the technology. So one is advances in the digital technology. So adoption of electronic submission system, peer review platform, and even now we have like pre-publishing platform where we can put our papers on that platform, allow people to peer review, provide idea, enhance, and submit paper to other journals. But JICT does not allow that kind of preprints. Okay, and then development of online repository and archiving for storing and accessing scholarly articles. Now we have DOI, which is a document object identifier, which is permanent link to a certain document. It won't, as for now, it's claimed that it won't lose or the storage is permanent. And then integration of multimedia content. For example, some journals today allow authors to provide, for example, multimedia content to support their papers published in the journal. So we also have like another different perspective here, which look into the open access movement. There's a lot of emergence of open access journal and repositories promoting unrestricted access to research finding. So it definitely will increase visibility and impact of research, and also lead to adoption of Creative Commons licenses to facilitate reuse and distribution of any scholarly content. So they provided an Creative Commons license. And again, apart from that too, we also look into data-driven decision making. Based on our publication is now being complicated. We have like data analytics and metrics. We look at the citation counts, autometrics, and then to measure the impact of research or papers that we publish. So we also implement like a peer review metrics and performance indicator to evaluate reviewers and the editor effectiveness. So yeah, that's a that evolution towards that. Globalization of research collaboration, of course, is facilitate the international collaboration and knowledge exchange. We can now find whoever match our research interests published in certain area, how many citation he has, how many documents he has published, what's the impact of their papers. That may be the person that we could approach to be our partners, okay? So in terms of expansion of editorial boards and reviewers, now it's more diverse and beyond the geographical boundaries. And another point that arises in conjunction with the evolution of academic publishing is to look into the ethical and legal consideration. So we have as the technology technology evolve, there's a lot of other issues, for example, plagiarisms, and sometimes authorship disputes, conflict of interests, okay? And how are we going to manage these issues? These are all the challenges on arises in the modern journal publishing or journal management in the digital era. And I think just now you understand that what are actually the current scenario before and after. The traditional one and the modern one. So now let me share with you a key responsibility of a journal editor-in-chief. So once you submit, once you click the submit button in the journal submission system, here is my role begins. Okay, so what would be the number one task that I'm going to do is to perform number one here is to have the editorial decision making. If you see at the beginning just now, I explained to you that I have checking around 1,000 paper in 2002. So here is the thing that I did in every week, okay, to identify to whether a paper would be able to move to the next stage of review stage, okay? So I conducted a desk checking. I call it a desk checking. So desk checking basically to look into, for example, scholarly rigor, whether the paper or the work reported in the paper relevant to JICT team. If it's not relevant to JICT team, then it's straight away being rejected. We call that as a desk reject. And also to look at how the authors wrote the paper in terms of clarity and coherence, and whether they comply to the ethical compliance. We use that, turn it in to check the percentage of their originality report, which is we accept 20% and below. And also we also check nowadays it's become more challenging. I will explain later, where now users are using, authors using ChatGPT to create their content. And ethical compliance, just now, methodology soundness. In terms of JICT, we actually really focus on computer science research, basically on simulation, experimental study. We do accept survey and observation, qualitative study, but if they analyze the data using advanced data analysis method, they probably have chances to be moved to the next stage. Otherwise, if like they conducted simple survey to ask the acceptance or something, we kind of not accepting that kind of paper anymore because the methodology is really simple in doing the research. And we also look into the contribution of the knowledge, same like if they are just developing a system, they have like a models, but it's not accepted or validated. So the paper will also be test rejected. Of course, the last one, we look into language and writing mechanics. If it's contain too much language mistakes and does not comply to the style that we provided in the website, it also will be test rejected. Apart from looking at the criteria of the manuscript, we also like, my role is actually to balance the quality and the quantity of the publication. So I have to maintain the standards of the papers published in the journal, so that that require, careful consideration between me and also the editor in charge of the paper to decide whether a paper can be accepted after a review process has been completed. Okay. We also kind of having overload mean here to, you see that every week JICT receive around 30 submissions in average. So but that submission, we have to, me myself have to carefully manage myself and my time not to delay any of the week. So the longest time, the longest maybe a couple of weeks. Otherwise, it will, when the submission reach to, for example, 100, it takes ages to, check one by one of the papers. So in this situation, we also need to maintain that our papers in pipeline not that too much, because it's will show some certain trends. For example, to not handling or managing the paper accordingly. Maybe we we are neglecting the quality of the paper. And then I'm also looking at strategic decision making. For example, we have to consider the indexing or indexing body, what they want, so that the journal for every issue must have diversity in terms of authors. We also have the internal policy to have our own lecturers at UUM have the quota in the journal, so that must have to fulfill as well. And I also have like responsibility to the national to have authors from national being published, papers from international or authors being published in the journal. So I have to make that decision carefully. So for every issue, I must look at how many papers come from UUM, how many papers come from national authors, how many papers come from international authors. So I have to make that decision wisely, so that the number of papers is actually have a fair distribution between that three entities. And also have the editorial policies. This mainly being done by the UUM press in terms of the editorial policies, and all journal editors just follow the policies they have made. Because at Universiti Utara Malaysia, all journals published by the university is actually governed by one Jawatankuasa, which is Jawatankuasa Pengurusan Jurnal University, which govern all the policies involving with publishing the journals. Okay, after having the editorial decision-making process, I'm also having building and the role of building and managing an editorial board. Okay, so JICT editorial board members comprise of people from different expertise in computing. I try to have a balance between gender, expertise, and also countries. So at this moment, we have a number of expertise in AI. That's due to an increased number of submission related to AI. And also in recent trends, I also look at an increased pattern of papers submitted within the area of image or pattern recognition. So therefore, we need to increase a number of editorial board members within that area. So we have to arrange that expertise. Okay. Sorry, this one we are talking about the reviewers first, not the editorial board member. We're talking about the reviewers. The editorial board members would be the next slide. Yeah. Okay. So in terms of reviewers, I have to work with my team, editorial board member, for every papers that pass through the desk checking. It will be assigned to one editor in charge, or we call it as managing. We have our own managing editor. We call it a section editor who manage each individual paper. This editor will also responsible for identifying reviewers for the paper assigned to them, and also look at the review response or review reports given by the reviewers and decide together with me on whether to accept or to reject that paper. So in terms of the reviewers, we also have to look into the expertise of the reviewers. Since today we are not limited to Malaysian reviewers, but we also invite reviewers from international to be part of the team to review the papers. And we also must maintain a reputation of the reviewers, meaning that we cannot simply look at the, I mean, we cannot simply pick reviewers to review a paper. Of course, it must have the specific align with their expertise, and then have some experience in terms of research and also publications. And again, of course, this is actually quite challenging in terms of time deadline given to the reviewers. Some good reviewers will get, I mean, they are busy, involved with a lot of routine in their work, but it will involve delay in terms of giving their review reports. So, but their report are actually very good and very, giving good feedback to the author. But yeah, we kind of need to balance that as well. And also diversity. Diversity here refers to the reviewers from different backgrounds, different countries, and also different genders, to look at the differences to have a diversity. And sometimes we also need to provide training and support to the reviewers as well, especially in terms of using the system where they do not familiar on how to use the system. Apart from the reviewers, we also look into the recruitment of editorial board members. That is important, the connection that I explained in the previous session just now. If we have kind of, limited network, we are unable to recruit editorial board members to our team. Therefore, it is actually a requirement for us to have a wide network so that we can recruit top professors from university internationally to be the editorial board members, and to ensure that their expertise are actually aligned with the journal scope, because this is sometimes important. When you met someone new and they know that you are actually the editor-in-chief, and sometimes they requested personally to be in the team, but they are from different area. For example, they are from business and management. They would like to be the editorial team, which is, that's we cannot do that because their background does not meet into the journal scope. We also have to promote inclusivity, to look into editorial board member from maybe different countries around the world, and also The next is also to have them engage actively with the journal. That's another challenge actually, but that's one of my role that I have to do as a journal editor-in-chief. I also conducted professional development for the uh, editorial board members. We started with giving them simple tasks like looking at how they review the papers, and sometimes our top reviewers will also be invited to be our editorial board member teams. Okay, so after they're sometimes familiar with the system, they will be able to join the editorial board members. And after building and managing an editorial board, after a manuscript has a decision to be accepted for every form of 4 times a year. I'll be checking the layout for publication. The layout means the one that will appear in the website that with the published files and also the OI. So before that can come out on the website, it is to ensure for me to ensure that the formatting is consistent in all volumes and issues of JICT. So these require a very meticulous work to look at and actually to read line by line of all manuscript published in an issue. So in average, we publish 24 manuscripts a year. So I throughout this couple of years, I've actually read line by line of all the papers and spottings, for example, inconsistency in terms of formatting and so on. So once discovered that, we'll get back to the publication design department to enhance or to correct that mistake. And also finalizing publication layout to maintain, of course, this exercise to maintain the quality assurance, and also to ensure that every issue is published before the end of the month. I will explain to you why this issue need to publish in the before the end of the month, because we would like to comply with the quality standards set by the Scopus and also Clarivet. So, and if a journal promise to have a journal, to have a January issue, so it should be no longer than 31st of January. The paper should be published online. Same like the next issues. And of course, conducting continuous improvement. Okay, so that is the third role that I'm doing. Apart from that, I'm also doing marketing of the journal. For example, I have to formulate the promotional strategies, and then I have to understand and identify the targeted outreach, and then to promote the content, and also to have the to build the brand. Okay, so I also analyze the metrics and analytics, okay, from Scopus site score to see the performance of the journal. Okay, so yeah, this is related to this next role that I'm doing here, maintaining journal performance in journal indexing and also increasing journal indexes agency. So as now, to increase the visibility of JICT, I have to increase the number of indexing body for JICT so that JICT will be visible. In more visible widely. So what I'm going to do is basically to ensure that our practice in managing the journal is compliance with the indexing requirements. And we also perform regular assessments in terms of our process to ensure that none of the process is actually violating the regulation. And I also have to find new indexing application from time to time so that the journal is more visible. Okay, what are the challenges in managing journal? Okay, so here are some of the challenges. I think you can guess some of it. Of course, today is to address the ethical concern and plagiarism. That is one of the challenges that I experienced, especially after 2002, when all the AI generated software has been there in the market. So in line with that, me myself has also to familiar in doing and to try the chat GPT and all other tools in generating content, because nowadays research report can be easily generated using those tools. So me myself, if I don't know what would be the outcome of a certain, for example, content, how it looks like, if I'm not familiar, I will not be able to detect that paper is actually generated by AI. But nowadays, as between this 2023, I experience myself generating paper using chat GPT and try myself doing it. It helps a lot in detecting certain style of writing in paper submission. So when I see this kind of writing, I know that this paper is actually generated by AI, which is yeah, we don't have to I'm quite flexible, but we look into, number one is the originality of the data and also the analysis. If they use ChatGPT for language enhancement, that would be okay. But if you rely ChatGPT entirely to generate your paper, which is, I think that is part of unethical work. And then handling the increased volume of submission. As I said just now, between 2022 and 23, there was a decrease. But before that, in 2001, I also involved in doing desk checking as well. During that time, the number of submission was even higher. Okay, so there was a time like a season, for example, end of the semester, they got like, I call it like similar like DOS attack, where there's a number of papers submitted from similar institution with that similar institution. This happened especially from India. I think when it comes from to the ends of their semester, they will ask the students to submit the paper to JICT, and it's like a DDoS attack. But that quality of paper rarely pass the test checking, because that's low quality. But it seems like they send submission is in a week, in a high volume. Okay, right. When it comes to increase volume of submission, they also require increase of peer review recruitment, which being quite difficult for us nowadays to find reviewers who willing to cooperate and support JICT. And of course, next, our challenge is in maintaining and improving the journal's impact factor. From year to year, we have looked into an increased number of journal in computer science. JICT is now being classified as general computer science in Scopus. And for every year, there are a number of journals, new journals being indexed, and that journals actually being ranked higher than the existing journal who are there for more than, for example, for a long time being indexed. So this is actually create a higher competition between publishers, journal publishers. And another challenge is actually to ensure the diversity and inclusion, as I explained earlier. As a journal editor, I have to carefully manage each of the volume of the papers that represent UUM authors, national authors, and also international authors. So we need to have that representation. And apart from that, we also have like high submission rate nowadays from India and also Indonesia. Um, we kind of have a low submission rate from other countries, for example, from Europe and also from the US. Okay, so it is not really representing the entire world of authors. So our mission now is to have more diversity of authors in terms of countries. Okay. Right. I'm giving some personal insights of my experience being the editorial teams for I think more than 20 years. I would say that it helped me a lot in my own career development and personal growth. By doing this role, I'm actually enhancing my writing skill and proficiency, and I'm also developed my networking with a wider group of people from beyond the geographical boundaries, and it also developed my leadership skills. And another good thing is actually I'm staying updated with the latest research. When I'm doing checking of the papers, I will also Google the papers at the same, Google the title and topic at the same time, and we see that it could be maybe new if there's some trends of publication in other journals with the same topic. It could be outdated when the last publication on the similar topic was published like 10 years ago, which lead to rejection, rejection of the paper. So that's kind of the skill that I have. Then I'm like keeping myself on the current development of research. I'm also sharing what are the tools that I'm used to help me for me to run my role as editor-in-chief. Here are all the tools. I have Grammarly. I use Grammarly. Of course, Grammarly, when I turn on, open the Grammarly embedded on Microsoft Word, I will see spelling mistakes, for example, inconsistency in terms of UK and US spelling, and then missing, for example, comma, periods, those things could be easily detected. Therefore, sometimes when look at the papers, I know whether to accept or not to reject the paper. So writing mechanics and language has been one of the criteria, because throughout years of experience handling manuscript, we did, in the earlier age of our journal, accepting papers with grammatical mistakes, and later after the revision, they have to provide an evidence of proofreading. But it turns out to be like authors refuse to send the papers for proofreading, and refuse to conduct maybe proofreading using certain tools which make the papers, could be rejected for the publication, because the hesitance of the authors to comply to the suggestion. And then I think when that happens, it actually delay our publication process, and it becomes dispute within authors and also the editorial board member, and it's actually create a lot more problems. Therefore, nowadays, it has been like more than 5 years we implement this exercise. Those who having problems with the language and grammar, that paper will also be rejected as well, unless they prove it and send it back, resubmit. We will maybe look at it again as a new submission. I also use Turnitin to look into the originality of the content. And then if you look at that logo, I look ChatGPT as well. I work extensively with ChatGPT last year to understand how the style of writing generated by ChatGPT, and now I know what what style of language being generated by ChatGPT. And also being friend with Scopus here because it's important to monitor, for example, to search the credibility of the editorial board members and also reviewers, so we can simply search the author ID from Scopus. And also, for example, we look into site score to look at what's the position of JICT in terms of the ranking for the particular year, so that we look at what's the journal perform better than us, what's the journal perform lower than us, what's the journal actually in the last year of site score results were higher and why they are now being at the lower rank. Some sort of that analysis being done also. And we also use Clarivet as well, but since the university has limited access to this one, so we only use the functions that they have, only the free function that they provided. Basically, at least also to look at the journal performance there. I also use extensively LinkedIn to promote the journal. If you can search my ID, Norliza Katuk, you can be my friends there and look at, I regularly promoted the journal through my LinkedIn so that I will be able to publicize call for papers for from authors from overseas, for internationally. And as I'm doing my promotion through LinkedIn, I need also Canva to design my poster and so on. So basically, these are the tools that I'm work with me closely to perform my role as the journal editor-in-chief. As a conclusion, I learned that from Dr. Sam that you guys have a journal as well. Okay, so maybe I could share some tips to for you to make the journal sustain. Okay, or if you would like to start publishing a new journal, what you have to do. For example, of course, we need to thoroughly research the market to find the specific area what the journal would cover, and then we must build a strong editorial team members. These strong editorial members is also the internal one who will work in processing the manuscripts. It also from the international part that will be help or assisting or publicizing the journal. And you also must develop a clear editorial policies to focus on quality from the beginning. Okay, so you need to identify your layout of the papers of the manuscript you will publish, and then what style you have to need, and what content you accept for publishing in the journal. And you also need to choose the right publishing model. For example, is it an goal open access, okay, or hybrid hybrid access, for example. And to invest in a user-friendly publishing platform, yes. If you don't have specific systems to manage your journal, it's gonna be difficult. JICT use the Open OJS, Open Journal Management, Open Journal System that was actually being supplied by Mohd. Okay. And we also need to promote diversity and inclusivity so that our journal visibility would be more wide, and to engage with certain research community, which is a good idea, whereby we can have papers from that community, and from the beginning to adhere to indexing criteria. So as for now, I think it is good that if we look into my site, to look at the criteria of my site, and step by step we look into the criteria to get into Scopus. And of course, we always need to have a continuous improvement and evaluation. And last one, be patient and persistent. That's very important, because managing journal is difficult and very time consuming. So I would like to introduce to you our little sister for JICT, which is Journal of Digital System Development. Our little sister here is focusing on anything related to digital system development. We would like to invite the audience here to publish, to send papers to this journal. The intention of having this journal was started in 2002 when I was the Deputy Dean of Research and Innovation. So I worked together with the Publication Committee of School of Computing, actually to find a platform for our lecturers and final year students who produce final year report or final year project report. We have like every semester student will produce their paper, their report in the form of papers between 8 to 10 pages. That since 2016, we are no longer accepting students' final year FYP report in terms of the one hardbound copy. So we have asked the students to write the report of their development of the systems for their FYP in a short form, like 8 to 10 pages. And we kind of like a lot of numbers of projects being produced by this one, and we don't have a specific platform to publish it. We can't publish in JICT because the contribution is not that significant in terms of contribution to the knowledge. We found one journal that helped us to publish it, but we found it's so costly. So what we did was we applied to the journal of the Jawatankuasa Perusahaan Journal for a new journal, and we kind of having 2 cycles of revision until they allow our journal to be published. And our target for this journal is to have index my site within a couple of years. So at the end of 2024, we plan to apply for my site. And I think since JICT has already in the Scopus and clarified, we would like to maintain this journal to be my site index. But let's say in 5 years, we have a good development of it, we might apply for Scopus as well. So thank you so much for listening to my presentation. It's like 7 minutes to 11. Anyone has question to ask?
Okay, thank you, Associate Professor Dr. Norliza. Anyone would like to share your thoughts also can switch on your mic, and maybe you can share your experience as well together if you don't have any questions. The floor is open for you all. You can write even in the chat box, and I will read directly from there. Yes, Dr. Ashraf. Please. You can switch on your mic.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you, Prof, for this informative talk. So actually, we learned a lot from this talk, and very good experience to us. So yes, I would like to know that the duration of the process in this JICT, because a long time ago I have an experience with this journal. I published one paper. It is very good journal, but it took long time, especially after accepted my paper to publish my paper. It took very long time at that time. So nowadays, I believe recently, the process of the journal, or all the the processes in JICT, it became not like before. So please, can you tell us the approximate duration of the process from submitting to get the decision? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ashraf, for the question. Basically, JICT takes around 6 to 9 months to process the journal until the first day of submission until it's being published. There could be various reasons which I've forgotten to explain to you why actually the process is being lengthy. Number one is sometimes in many cases, reviewers are not able to respond to our invitation. So we kind of having wait for 2 weeks until they responded, and we see send a notification again, and they are not responding to our invitation. We have to appoint another reviewer. So that process itself sometimes take around 2 to 3 months because of finding the suitable the reviewers who can commit to provide review reports. Therefore, I think it is become the more challenging the most challenging exercise of being a journal editorial board members. And although at the beginning I told you that the process can be actually simplified by using the electronic submission system, but it actually rely on the reviewers. As previously we have a database like Pablons that we have a pool of good reviewers who will publish, who will help in reviewing it. But sometimes again, that is very subjective to the agreements of the reviewers to review for our journal. Therefore, although the electronic system is there, but the process still delayed due to finding suitable reviewers to review papers for the journal. But for JICT, as for now, we have between 6 to 9 months to get that paper published from the first date of submission until the publishing dates. But again, as when the process of reviewing completed, we have to put the papers in the pipeline, and sometimes we have 2 pipeline ahead, 2 issues ahead. Therefore, we still have to put the papers on latest. I mean the pipeline probably maybe 3 issue ahead, which is beyond the year, and it's expand to the next years. And so the process might be different for due to different situations. And I think top journals as well. For example, I found Q1 journal as well. Although they completed the review process earlier, it takes like 2 years to have the paper given an issue and also volume number and page numbers. That's because of there's a long pool of accepted papers in their pipeline. So I hope it answers your question.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Prof.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ashraf. But yeah, actually, we almost have reached the end of the session. But is it possible for me to ask one questions?
Sure, no problem.
This is genuinely from I would like to know lah. I consider myself as a new lecturer in terms of writing paper. Okay. So I would like to know, since Prof mentioned about the Q1s, what is the key criteria and the standards that we need to meet to ensure that we can our paper is eligible to be published on the Q1 journal or Q2? How can we identify that our paper is under the Q1 or Q2, Q3 or Q4? Thank you.
Number one, thank you for the question. I think it's a good one to ask to share about it. A part of being a journal editor, as myself, also I'm also a writer. I'm also a researcher. I'm also write for journal with different quartiles. Okay, I have published in Q4, Q3, Q2, Q1, and also sometimes publish without the new Q. I mean, not even a Q, meaning it's just index and scopus, but not being assigned to any quartile yet. Very recently published. There's some kind of trick actually. So for papers accepted for Q1 journal, number one is to read the author guidelines and instruction carefully. So sometimes author miss important parts like the journal accept words, word count between 2000, between 5,000 to 8,000. That's a common Q1 journal. The word count of the manuscript does not include tables and figures. It should have between 5,000 to 8,000 words. And apart from that, we also need to look at our research methodology. Our research methodology must be clear. And also, if it's involved with, like, it is okay to have a survey, but make sure that the sample size is large enough and be representative to answer the research problem. For example, like you have to investigate something on cybersecurity awareness. Our sample must be like, if you have like large enough samples, okay, for example, 400 and above, your paper is highly likely to be accepted as compared that the very small sample. For example, if you're doing survey that your sample is less like 40 or 30, it is, I mean, the result is not actually representative to the research question that you would like to answer. And another thing is, of course, to comply with the journal guidelines, because my experience as a journal editor, I would like to minimize the correction that users have to make when the paper is accepted, because we are chasing for the publication date. Therefore, if your paper contains a lot of mistakes, for example, usually the in-text citation has also references, we could not afford to make correction one by one of it. So my advice is actually to use reference and citation manager, and make sure that your citation and reference manager is actually comply to the style that the journal stated. I actually doing some social experiments. I have papers. I mean, during the COVID-19, I have a few papers, and we have plenty of time at home. So I conducted certain experiment. The first thing is, my research is not that strong. I mean, my sample size is just not, I conducted survey during that time. My sample size was like 200 to 300, but I complied to all of every style that the journal wanted. It was like Q2 journal during that time, and it was accepted as it is. You know, when you minimize the mistake in your paper and you reduce the effort that the editorial team member have to do, meaning the paper is perfect, although the contribution may be just not that much, but the chances of being accepted in and published in the journal is very high. So that's my own experience. I also conducted the same way of my final year students paper, as just now I mentioned that SOC has a lot of numbers of papers produced by final year students. I formatted the paper accordingly nicely. It's just like a development of, for example, certain systems. It has like UML diagrams. They conducted user acceptance tests, but I formatted accordingly according to the journal requirement. It is also accepted as it is. So the thing is, this one is I tested on Q4 and no quartile journal, the one that is actually recently being added in the Scopus. And because there's few reasons, these journals are actually the Q4 and the newly indexed journal, they are actually looking for papers. They would like to maintain their status in the Scopus. Therefore, they are looking for the papers to less that minimize that has less effort to format and so on, and then they can simply right away put it in the queue for publication. So the chances for being accepted for this journals is actually high. So therefore, my advice is we have a lot of tools. For example, nowadays we could use that ChatGPT to enhance our language. So make sure our writing is actually clear. No spelling mistakes, consistent in one language style. For example, if we stick to US from the beginning to the end. If we write in UK style, write from the beginning to the end on UK spelling. So it's actually increased the probability of your paper being accepted in the journal. I hope it helps you.
Thank you, Prof. It surely do. I got the insights already regarding to the Q1, which is related to the sample size and then the words, counting of the words, and then it should be have a very clear language that can explain without, minor mistakes. So we'll take note on that. I think all the new lecturers also will likely to take note on that as well. So we have reached at the end of our sessions. I would like to say a big thank you to our Associate Professor, Dr. Norliza Katuk, for joining our sessions, sharing sessions, I believe this is such a valuable and exposed to the editorial management and so on, and the SDG, which is a collaboration paper, and I believe we will take notes on that particular area. So we do have, as you mentioned, Prof, we do actually in the process of making our own journal, which is IJMIC. So it's still under progress, and hopefully we can learn the valuable things that you share here. So and then we're going to improve and then make it one, hopefully to be a success one as your journal that you have. So thank you for all participants as well for joining the session. Hopefully we can see each other again in for our monthly FKI sharing session. And I hope Associate Professor will become our next speakers as well, future speakers. So yeah, thank you everyone. Please check on your attendance. You can access the form for your IDP points, and yeah, enjoy your work day. Thank you everyone.
Thank you so
Doc, if
much,
you don't mind.
everyone.
Hello. Oh, sorry, I got to find a question if you don't mind.
Sorry, yeah, it's
Sure.
okay.
This is Khalifa from FKI. Yeah. Doctor, Doctor, I want to ask about the article processing charges, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, from the website, from your journal, I see that for UUM author, there is an exemption, right?
True.
If you are a UUM author, right?
So actually, for UU authors from UUM is free of charge. I mean, we don't charge authors from UUM. So yeah, it's kind of a trick if you can you will understand that.
That's exactly. My question is straight to the point. If let's say we are we having a co-author from UUM, do you still charge for your processing fees? Thank you.
No, we don't charge it. If
Thank
there's
you
a
very much.
co-author from UUM, we won't charge it.
Okay, noted. Thank you very much.
Okay, all right.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Khalifa Chikima. So we will end our session today. Thank you for everyone being interested in the session, and hopefully we will have another session with Associate Professor Dr. Norliza Katuk again. So thank you.
Okay, Assalamualaikum. Bye.
Waalaikumsalam.